Shabbat Shalom and Gemar Chatima Tova.
Shabbat Shalom.
All right, well, we already talked about Gemar Chatima Tova. Let's go back to that wonderful beginning that we use every week, Shabbat Shalom. What does the word Shabbat mean?
Shabbat says rest.
Rest, exactly. Shabbat is a cessation. It's not just the proper noun or the proper term for the proper noun of this day. Shabbat has its own meaning, and it means to rest. And Shalom,
Peace.
that's it.
Complete.
Completeness, completeness, hello, goodbye, peace. It's all of those and none of those. That is to say, English does not properly grab hold of Shabbat with any single word and is let's make sure I can get my tongue in front of the words rather than behind it. As soon as you are required to use multiple words, then you have already lost some of the essence of the word you are trying to translate, which is one of the reasons why we say Shabbat Shalom rather than Shabbat peace, hello, goodbye, and completeness, which just doesn't quite have the same ring. Now, it's important to understand what this concept of Shalom truly means, the sense of wholeness, of harmony, of completeness, of being utterly at peace in a way that is different than just the antonym of war, but to have that sense of absolute wholeness, of shlemut, as is called in Hebrew. And to understand it maybe a little bit better, we can go to perhaps the most famous Shalom psalm, which is the one we began with tonight, which is Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem. Now, just like in English, when we use the word goodbye, not hello unfortunately, but in goodbye, Shalom Aleichem is a standard greeting in Hebrew that comes together with the concept of wishing somebody the best that is possible from all that God has to give. Goodbye in the old English really meant may God be with you, may God go by you and bring you good. And eventually we condense that into goodbye in our English. Well, Shalom Aleichem is quite the same. We are wishing Aleichem, to you, peace. Except there's a little grammatical wrinkle there. Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem, for those of you that are Hebrew grammar hounds, is a plural pronoun. I am not wishing you, one person, peace. I am wishing you, multiple people, peace. Well, who is the chem in the Aleichem in the song of Shalom Aleichem? Who are they that we are wishing peace to at the beginning of Shabbat?
The angels?
The angels, exactly right. I'm sorry, what? What do you mean we're wishing peace to angels? What peace are we looking for in our relationship with angels? And are these angels not here all the time? To unpack this, we have to go back into a teaching within the Talmud. And the teaching is quite famous and quite misunderstood. Like most things that are famous, we think we understand them and then we stop thinking about them because we've already got it figured out. So the basic version of the story in the Talmud goes something like this. On Shabbat, when a person arrives home after having their beautiful time in the shul, having time in the synagogue together with the rest of the minyan, davening their prayers, they come home and there are angels that are with them. There is, quote, a good angel and a bad angel, hence the plural, they, in Shalom Aleichem. Now, when you get home, if you had done everything right prior to Shabbat beginning, then your house is ready, the candles have been lit, the food has all been prepared and ready to go for the Shabbos meal. Everything is, well, peaceful. The cessation has happened after the preparation and life is good. Under those circumstances, everything being good, the good angel says, may next Shabbat be like this. And the, quote, bad angel says, Amen. The bad angel has to agree, has to basically voice their support of that idea that next Shabbat should be as good as this one. And the opposite, if you get home and you had forgotten to light the candles and you didn't bother making anything special for dinner and you're just in a bad mood and everybody is cranky, then the bad angel says, may next Shabbat be just like this. And the good angel has to say, Amen. All right, so in its most cartoonish version, this story is telling us make a good Shabbat, and then next Shabbat can be good too, because the bad angel won't have anything to say, and you don't want to get jinxed. It's almost verging in the way many people hold this story to be a little bit on the verge of superstition. But that's not exactly what's going on here. I mean, first of all, what are we doing with the bad angel? I mean, where's this bad angel coming from? It doesn't matter if it's a cartoon. Yes, and if we were watching Disney, well, actually, no, even when I watch Disney, I critique it mercilessly, perhaps even more so, because there is less underneath it than there is in the Talmud. But yes, sometimes you can just say a story is just a story, but the Talmud doesn't waste words on things that don't have deeper meaning, that we would not be advised to just say, don't make a big deal of it. Instead, we have to understand what this evil angel means, this bad angel means, this angel of Ra. Well, not Ra like the Egyptian god, God forbid. Hebrew word Ra meaning bad, no connection as far as I've ever heard. So, in Judaism, according to Isaiah, and which we quote in a slight paraphrase every single morning during our blessing of Yotzer Or, we say that God has made everything in the world, including good and bad. Now, does this mean God is making bad as bad? No. This is an anti-dualist proposition. It is trying to remind us that whatever is going on in the world, there is no other force, other God, other devil, that has some power to create evil. Instead, the things that we call evil, the things that are a burden to us, the things that are a tripwire for us, the things that cause us to have problems that we would then categorize as being evil, well, God made those too. And they may feel like badness to us, and they may actually be badness, but it is not a malevolence. It is not a satanic evil in the modern pop culture version. We need to make sure that is clear in our mind. Because otherwise, one, we're not going to understand our own text, and two, we're not going to understand what this incredible, powerful story is trying to tell us. So when there is a good angel, or if the good angel sees the good Shabbat and it says, may it be like this, it is pointing out that what we have created, what we have made with our effort in this Shabbat, is something that is likely to lead to a better outcome for next week. Because after all, if I have a good Shabbat, if I have that rest, if I have that shalom, that peace, that can come only on Shabbat when I am protected from all of the normal challenges and troubles of the normal week, then not only am I refreshed for next week's struggles, but even more importantly, during that cessation, during that moment of quiet, I am allowed to be in deeper contact with my own soul and with God. And that is something that is precious and which I will long for next week, which means I will work harder to ensure that it happens again, and it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. However, nothing happens if there isn't a challenge. That is to say, if Shabbat was automatic, if Shabbat happened whether you did anything or not, and I don't mean just that Shabbat came into effect, that happens when the sun goes down, stars come out, but I mean the laws of physics were suspended. You're not allowed to make fire on Shabbat. So on Shabbat, every time you go to strike a match, nothing happens. Or just fire can't happen. Are you keeping Shabbat? Or are you now just trapped in Shabbat? On Shabbat, you are not allowed to do your business. Okay? Imagine the laws of nature change. Anytime you try to spend money on Shabbat, it physically cannot depart from your hands. There's no way to do a transaction. All right, so when you refrain from doing your business on Shabbat, are you observing Shabbat? No, you're trapped into doing Shabbat. It is no longer a release, it is in fact now a prison. Instead, there are challenges. On Shabbat, you can do everything that you could do on a weekday. The laws of nature do not change. There is no suspension of reality making Shabbat different than the rest of the week, except in how we choose to live. And that means all of that ra, all of that badness, all of those stumbling blocks, all of those challenges, all of those struggles are still right there, waiting to trip us up. And if we don't prepare for it, if we didn't have the candles lit, our food prepared, well, then we're going to think, I don't want to sit in the dark, and I know I'm not supposed to, but I light my candle. I know I'm not supposed to cook on Shabbat, but I forgot to make anything, or I was so busy doing whatever that I didn't make anything. All right, turn the stove on. Right? That's the angel of Ra. Yes, giving you all of that challenge, all of those places to trip, all of that badness just waiting at your fingertips to allow you to stumble. And when you do, well, not only will you not have all of that wonderful rest that comes from a proper Shabbat Shalom, a proper peace of Shabbat, but you will also grow more distant from yourself and from God, and you will begin to even wonder whether you should bother doing even as much as you did last week when it comes time for next week. And you will grow more and more alienated from the Spirit of the Holy One as well as your own. It becomes self-perpetuating once again. But if that angel weren't there, if those struggles weren't there, if that stumbling block wasn't there, then what good would our righteousness be? What good would our choices be? What good would any of what we did mean? It's fine to say that Shabbat is there as a cessation. Yes, absolutely, it is meant as a cessation, and if you want to know more about that, I've got videos on it, and I'm happy to talk to you and recommend books and all the other things that go along with it. But the cessation is there for the shalom, not the shalom for the cessation. That the wholeness comes because we have created a hole in our life that allows so much to come pouring into that we have been ignoring, that we have been pushing back in our struggle during the week. And that is the shalom, that is the peace, that is the fulfillment that happens when we have taken the time to craft Shabbat with all of its different details and strictures and rules. That is what allows Shabbat to truly be a release. And that is where we can be warriors, where we can fight in order to create something more beautiful and splendid, simply by not doing what we do during the week, simply by changing what we do in order to prepare for this time more than any other time during the week. The shalom is not one of lethargy. The shalom is not one of apathy. This peace that we gather from Shabbat is one of the greatest accomplishments waiting for us. And when we call out Shalom Aleichem to these malachim, to these angels, what we are calling out is that, thank you for giving me the opportunity to rise up and for reminding me that when I rise up, it is not easy, that I have accomplished something which enriches me greatly, because I know it's all too easy to stumble. And that means that you, bad angel, you have to be there as my adversary, so that when I bring shalom into my heart, I know that I have done it. So therefore, both are welcome, both are part, and we are ultimately responsible for choosing which one will accompany us most in the week to come and in our life. With that, I wish all of you Shalom Aleichem, Shabbat Shalom. May you find peace because you were looking for it.